94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Ghana's lands minister announces plans to halt importation of excavators to curb illegal mining.
The time has come for us to basically restrict the import of excavators in this country. Third most valuable things we import in this country, to the tune of 6.2 billion, is excavators, which mainly are brought here to destroy our forest reserve and destroy our water bodies and kill all of us.
Former Senegalese lawmaker describes adopted interpretative amnesty law as complicated and calls for further clarification. Guinean socio-political actors expresses varying opinions on September 21 referendum date set by the junta. An impeachment trial of Côte d'Ivoire's PDCI's leader, Tijani Chiam, intensifies ahead of presidential election in October.
Today's hearing focused primarily on submitting to the judge our written submissions in response to the writ of summons and amending the arguments presented by Adam Villari, Yapo, and Yolande. Unfortunately, Madam President opened her comments on the case.
Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Christopher Aticho with Newslink.
A warm welcome to our listeners within the sub-region and beyond. Newslink begins in Ghana, where the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa, has expressed government commitment to halt the importation of excavators to curb the devastating impacts of illegal mining on the environment. Describing perpetrators of illegal mining, also known as Galamsey, as terrorists for endangering Ghanaian lives, the minister called for effective collaboration among key stakeholders to end the menace and restore water bodies for usage through the Blue Water Guard initiative. Here is the minister, Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa.
Earlier we had talked about the scorecard of the past 8 years where 845 people arrested for illegal mining. We could only prosecute 35 of them. Chief Justice, I'm very happy that Attorney General is taking the necessary step to try to reconstitute and bring back dedicated courts in dealing with these terrorists. And that's how we see them. They are terrorists. The time has come for us to basically restrict the import of excavators in this country. It doesn't make any sense that the third most valuable things we import in this country, to the tune of 6.2 billion, is excavators, which mainly are brought here to destroy our forest reserve and destroy our water bodies and kill all of us. This must stop. And we believe that effort is ongoing. You cannot have a country where your 3 water systems are so polluted that the turbidity levels are 5,000 to 12,000 when they should be 500. It means we are drinking poison. And this is what must be a collective fight. We can't allow few people to make money at the expense of millions of Ghanaians and kill us.
Ghana's Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa. Still in Ghana, the Executive Director of the West African Civil Society Institute, WACSI, has urged African nations to take control of their resources and combat illicit financial flows, corruption, and destructive practices such as illegal mining. Speaking at the launch of WACSI's 20th anniversary on Wednesday, Dr. Nana Afajinu warned that massive losses from these issues have left African countries heavily reliant on Western aid, which could be withdrawn at any point. Her remarks follows the abrupt suspension of the U.S. aid funding to countries including Ghana in January, which led to the immediate halt of critical development programs. WADR's Nadi Detete reports.
The Executive Director of the West Africa Civil Society Institute, WACSI, Dr. Nana Afajinu, has called on African nations, particularly Ghana, to take full control of their natural resources and end their reliance on foreign aid. Speaking at WACSI's 20th anniversary launch in Accra, Ghana, Dr. Nana Afajinu raised concerns about how financial mismanagement, unethical practices, and destructive mining activities, commonly known as Galamsey, are eroding Africa's wealth, leaving the continent reliant on Western donors.
And as Africans, we need to take charge of our resources and manage our resources. The amount of resources that we are losing from illicit financial flows, from corruption, from some of the destructive practices like galamsey. It's taking away everything that we have, so that we have to fall on these European Western countries who can decide to pull the plug anytime, and we are left floundering.
The WACSI director specifically pointed to Ghana's vast natural wealth, questioned why a country with abundant resources continues to depend on international aid from agencies like the USAID.
Can we imagine if we were managing our resources correctly and we had governments who were investing those resources into our development, what Ghana would be? Ghana was taking about over 160 million from USAID. Why do we need that kind of funding from USAID?
The abrupt suspension of USAID funding to many countries, including Ghana, has affected primarily livelihoods and also resulted in extensive job losses in Ghana's non-governmental organization sector, particularly northern Ghana, where the majority of USAID-funded initiatives were located. For 2 decades, WACSI has been instrumental in strengthening civil society organizations, advancing civic participation, and driving sustainable development across the sub-region. For WADR, Nadiri Tete, Accra.
Back here in Senegal, as the proposed interpretative amnesty law has been adopted by the National Assembly, the text was adopted on Wednesday by a majority vote after the prolonged plenary session. The law aims to exclude from the scope of the amnesty adopted at the end of the former President Macky Sall's term in office offenses related to blood crimes. Abdullahi Hassan completes the story.
With 126 votes in favor, the National Assembly has adopted the proposed law interpreting the controversial amnesty law. 20 MPs rejected the text proposed by Deputy Amadou Ba, which aims to exclude certain offences from the scope of the amnesty. Abdou Sani is a former Senegalese MP.
The aim of interpretation is to clarify the scope of a law and its field of intervention, its field of application, and what is done. Though in this interpretation, it was noted that it is excluded that there is no question of protecting all those who have committed crimes, or those who have degraded human life, and all those who have contributed to the disappearance of people. So, anything that touched on the sacredness of human life had to be beyond the reach of this amnesty law.
The text therefore aims to guarantee justice for the victims of the political tensions that left almost 100 people dead between 2021 and 2024. Abdou Sani explains.
All the amnesty laws that have existed in Senegal have simply served to bury the real issues and push into oblivion issues as sensitive as murders. And so, it is this precision that has simply fueled what is now called an interpretation law, so as to enable judges to take on a certain number of cases with all the knowledge and precision they need, and to settle once and for all this question of impunity, so that Senegal can definitely turn the page on impunity in favor of equality before the law.
In a press release issued just after the adoption of the interpretative law, APR, the party of former President Macky Sall, denounced the law which it said indexes the defense and security forces.
Abdullahi Hassan filed the report. In Guinea, tensions are running high following the government announcement of a referendum date of September 21, 2025. On that day, Guineans will be called upon to decide whether or not to adopt a new constitution. This announcement is already dividing Guineans' socio-political class. The forces verbs, for their part, reject this date and denounce not only the absence of the consultation, but also the absence of an electoral timetable. Rafiu So is a member of the forces verb of Guinea.
Écoutez, nous étions surpris pour la simple raison que certes nous demandons des élections.
Listen, we were surprised for the simple reason that we've been calling for elections for several years now, and that General Mamadou Doumbouya had promised that this time too we will have all the elections we need to emerge from the transition. And to our surprise, yesterday we heard that the date of the referendum had been set for September 21. We asked ourselves several questions. First of all, how can we go to elections? Let's just say that the electoral roll doesn't didn't exist. Since they came to power, the authorities have communicated widely, saying that they wanted to change the electoral file. They wanted to redo another one, whereas we offered them the old electoral file. And today, if we take the old electoral file, we will have to make a few changes to it. There are people now over the age of 18, so there are a few problems. And certainly, it can only take a month to do that. But we were also calling for a framework for dialogue, a framework for consensual dialogue, where the CNRD and the Forces Vives of Guinea could meet to talk about transition and the upcoming elections. Unfortunately, we don't have this framework for dialogue. It's a framework for dialogue that I call a decision-making framework, where all decisions concerning the transition and the next elections should be taken around. This, unfortunately, we don't have this framework for dialogue. We don't have a framework for decision.
Rafiuso is a member of the Forces Vives of Guinea.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let's get to Cote d'Ivoire, where the impeachment trial of PDCI's President Tijani Chiam against Valerie Yapo, one of the political party's senior members, is gaining momentum. The latter filed a complaint last March against Tijani Chiam, demanding his resignation as head of the Democratic Party of Cote d'Ivoire. According to her, Tijani Chiam was irregularly elected to lead the party in December 2023. The hearing, which was held yesterday behind closed doors at the Abidjan Plateau Court of First Insurance, has been postponed until April 11. Report by our correspondent in Abidjan, Marcel Ariston-Blay, and voiced by Sankole Janko.
There were heavy police presence, particularly around the Abidjan Plateau Court of First Instance. There was intense tension between Tijani Chiam's supporters and the police, who were unhappy by the decision to hold the hearing behind closed doors. At the press conference held at the PDCI headquarters in Cocody, Maître Blaise Chrysostome, lawyer and PDCI activist, indicated that the legal proceedings against the PDCI were aimed at removing its president from the political scene in preparation for the October 2025 presidential election.
Today's hearing focused primarily on submitting to the judge our written submissions in response to the writ of summons and amending the arguments presented by Adam Villari, Yapo, and Yolande. Unfortunately, Madam President opened her comments on the case. It was truly irregular because this isn't a summary hearing that should be held in the judge's chambers. It's a regular hearing that should be held in public.
Faced with this situation, Mr. Blessy urged activists not to relax their efforts and to remain mobilized until the end of this legal marathon. The case against Valerie Yapo, initially scheduled for trial this Wednesday, has been adjourned until Friday, April 11th.
And that's a report by our correspondent in Abidjan, Marcel Ariston-Blay, and voiced by Sankole Janko. Elsewhere in Togo, the first president of the Senate is now known. Barry Moussa Bake was unanimously elected by his fellow senators on Wednesday, April 2, 2025. Francis Boniface completes the story.
This second parliamentary chamber will be chaired for the next 6 years by Barry Moussa Bake. He succeeds Kujolo Dogo, who until now has held the presidency as the oldest member. Moussa Bake will be supported by a 9-member executive committee reflecting the various components of the Togolese society. The board includes 3 vice presidents, 2 administrative staff, and 3 parliamentary secretaries. Once this management team has been put in place, the 61 senators will meet this Thursday, April 3, 2025, for their first ordinary session of the year. Today's session comes 2 days after that of the deputies of the first legislature of the Fifth Republic. It should be noted that this session, which saw the election of the president of the Senate, also provided an opportunity to adopt the rules of procedure of this newly created institution.
Francis Boniface filed the report. Elsewhere, delegations from the trio of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger are currently in Moscow as part of a bold and strategic move to deepen security and bilateral relations. On the AES and Taraj are members of Foreign Affairs from Bamako, Ouagadougou, and Niamey. This visit, which is the first between Russia and the Central African or the Central Sahel, according to experts, signifies an intense shift in regional security, realignment, and geographical landscape. Augustin Colley completes the story.
Abdoulaye Diouf of Mali, Karamoko Jean-Marie Traoré of Burkina Faso, and Niger's Bakary Yahou Sangare engaged with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov to discuss enhanced cooperation in defense, security, and economic development. This roundtable marks the first AES-Russia talks since the establishment of the Confederation of Sahel States last year. The AES describes the meeting as a crucial step towards advancing its shared goals. Bamako, Ouagadougou, and Niamey have increasingly drifted towards Russia since expelling France, a former security and economic ally of several decades, setting new paradigms. Like its neighbors in the Sahel trip, Niger has cancelled several agreements with Western powers such as the US, while denouncing its membership with security platforms like the G5 Sahel and MNGTF. Nearly 5 years after the wave of coups that swept through the region, the juntas are realigning with Russia as to grapple with ongoing insurgencies that have devastated local populations, claimed thousands of lives, and displaced millions. Mali, now chair of the Confederation, aims to foster collaboration between the region and Russia in sectors beyond security to energy and mining sectors.
Augustin Colley filed the report. In Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu has restructured the board of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited, a move expected to reshape the country's oil sector and impact broader West African energy markets. WADR's Abuja correspondent Usman Umar completes the story.
Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has dismissed the leadership of NNPC Limited, removing Chairman Chief Pius Akinyelure and Group Chief Executive Officer Malam Mele Kyari, along with other board members appointed in November 2023. A new 11-member board has been announced, with Engineer Bashir Ojulari as the new Group Chief Executive Officer and Ahmadu Kida as the non-executive chairman. 6 other board members represent Nigeria's geopolitical zones, while the Ministers of Finance and Petroleum Resources have designated representatives. The restructuring, authorized under the Petroleum Industry Act, is aimed at improving operational efficiency, attracting investment, and boosting local content in Africa's largest oil-producing nation. President Tinubu has tasked the new board with reviewing NNPC's strategic assets and ensuring value maximization for Nigeria's oil and gas resources. Since 2023, Nigeria has attracted $17 billion in oil sector investments, and the government now targets an increase to $30 billion by 2027 and $60 billion by 2030. The administration's ambitious energy roadmap seeks to raise oil production to 3 million barrels daily and gas output to 10 billion cubic feet by the decade's end. For West Africa, Nigeria's reforms in the petroleum sector could mean greater regional energy security, increased crude supply for neighboring countries, and enhanced investment opportunities within the sub-region. The reorganization also comes as Nigeria works to revive its refining capacity with a goal of reaching 500,000 barrels per day by 2030. President Tinubu has thanked the outgoing board for their contributions, particularly in reviving the Port Harcourt and Warri refineries. The new leadership now faces the challenge of driving Nigeria's energy transformation while ensuring the sector remains competitive on the global stage. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
You're still listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM Dakar, Senegal. We are also live on Facebook at WADR English Service and YouTube WADR News. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Ghana's lands minister announces plan to halt importation of excavators to curb illegal mining. Former Senegalese lawmaker describes adopted interpretative amnesty law as complicated and calls for further clarification. Social Guinean political actors express varying opinions on September 21 referendum date set by the junta. An impeachment trial of Côte d'Ivoire's PDCI leader Tijani Chiam intensifies ahead of the presidential election in October. Still ahead in the news, we have the guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Let's get to Liberia, where 11 Spanish doctors have arrived in the country to conduct surgical operations and provide medical treatment to citizens in the central region. The group, known as Liberia Physicians and Surgeons Without Borders, will assist over 100 residents from Bong and surrounding counties suffering from various medical complications. Supported by the Bong County Senator, Prince Moye, the initiative aims to strengthen the governance of the government healthcare delivery system. Let's join WADR's Abraham Parker in Monrovia for details.
The arrival of these medical professionals is expected to strengthen Liberia's struggling health sector, which faces numerous challenges. Speaking at the launch and welcoming ceremony in Monrovia, Senator Moye emphasizes the urgent need for improved healthcare services in the country. He also believes that collaboration in this sector will essentially address pressing health issues in Liberia.
Given the fact that you're going to be giving relief to citizens of Bong County and other counties that have been residing in Bong, being part of these services that you're going to provide. We want to say thank you.
In addition to the surgical care, Dr. Catherine Thomas Cooper, Liberia's chief medical officer, says the program will enable the exchange of knowledge and skills between the visiting and Liberian medical team.
Your expertise in surgery, anesthesiology, this mission will really provide support to those patients who cannot afford it otherwise.
Antonio Sataria, a general surgeon who doubles as the team leader, speaks of his team's ability to make a positive impact on the health of the beneficiaries.
They have prepared a lot of patients to be operated, so we hope that at least more than 100 of them can be operated this year. The more patients we can do, the more we try.
As the weeks-long health initiative kicks off, beneficiaries hope it serves as a vital step toward improving healthcare access and outcomes in Liberia. Stakeholders are, for their part, encouraging increased collaborations in medical services. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker reporting from Monrovia.
Politics, analyses on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
In our guest interview this evening, the continuation of the discussions on the adopted interpretative amnesty law in Senegal, a former lawmaker, Shehu Umar Say, is our guest in this segment. Speaking with WADR, Mr. Say called for clarity in the areas of compensation while describing the law and its interpretation as tricky. Mr. Say is also the president of the Observatory for Monitoring Economic Development Indicators in Africa.
This law that has been adopted yesterday by the Member of Parliament, mostly by the holding party, PASSEF, means today that the justice will be able to pursue people that were involved in aftermath of June 21st to 2021 to 2022, because they had an amnesty law that the former president has left behind him. And what they're trying to say with this law, interpretative law, is that crimes that has been committed between these 2 to 3 years will be now, the justice will be able to find the people who did it, which has brought a lot of questions, because people think also that PASSEF was involved during this time in some manifestation, some fighting between the APR and PASSEF. So people also think that behind that, people like the defense and security forces can be pursued, because that's we're talking about 60 people that has lost their life during that time.
Victims that we're talking about cuts across, and sometimes they include people's businesses, they include passers-by, they include people who don't even have anything to do politically, who somehow got injured or lost a loved one within that crisis. Will this compensation look at those businesses, look at the people who were caught in the web of this destruction and everything that happened within that period?
That's not clear, because what we seen mostly is that they're trying to talk about the people who has passed away, and also that they who did it. It is exact. Can you say that the defense and security forces did it? Can you say that somebody else did it? You need it. In my point of view, you needed a independent commission to be able to have an inquiry about what happened during 2021 to 2022, 2025. And what you said also, you have a lot of people that had been in the cross in this fighting that has seen their businesses being impacted by this political turmoil. You have gas stations, you have supermarkets, you have even normal people who has seen their businesses and being attacked. So how can we follow up with that and be sure that they will be compensated? This law doesn't bring any clarity on that. And also, who will decide about this compensation? Because one of these people that were involved in this fighting, Pastef, was here among the fighters on the ground. So it's really tricky right now for the justice to see through that, but we'll see how they're going to move forward with this law.
And it's time for sports, but I guess it was former lawmaker Shehu Umar Say, a former Senegalese lawmaker. And in sports this evening, I know Ghana has done well in the world ranking, and Sankole Janko joins me. Sankole.
All right, thank you very much. I mean, Christopher, let's go straight with the latest sports, because Morocco remained the top-ranked team in Africa and climbing 2 places to 12 in the world. The Atlas Lions maintained their position thanks to an impressive 2 wins in their 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers. Senegal also remained second in Africa, but the Teranga Lions dropped 2 places to 19 in the world from their previous 17th position. This could be due to Senegal's disappointing goalless draw with Sudan before beating Togo in the 2026 FIFA World Cup in March. Meanwhile, the Super Eagles of Nigeria climbed 1 place from 44 to 43 in the World Cup, despite disappointing 1-1 draw against Zimbabwe in the qualifiers. Nigeria currently sits 6th in the African ranking behind Cote d'Ivoire in 5th. The Black Stars of Ghana climbed 1 step, from 77 to 76 in the world rankings. However, they failed to make the top 5 ranked teams in Africa. Sadly.
Oh, that's fine. We shall get there.
Well, you should get there. But the top ranked 5 teams in Africa like this: Morocco is first, Senegal sits second, Egypt is in 3rd place, Algeria 4th, and Cote d'Ivoire 5th. Hopefully, Ghana will make the top 5 pretty soon.
Congratulations to them. But when we meet them with our current form, we shall definitely beat them hands down.
Well, I look forward to seeing that then.
Well, on that note, this is where we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and a big thanks to Maudo Juf for the technical assistance, and Umu Danioko, as well as Mam Kodu Fai. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook at WADR English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our environmental program, Enviroscope. I am Christopher Aticho. Good evening and enjoy the rest of our broadcast.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.